All right, all right, all right. Well, let's get this thing started. I'm Christian Thibodeau, and this is the Lone Star Cajun podcast, and I welcome you. It's 10:55 in the morning, beautiful day here, sunny Texas, and it's our first podcast. I'd like to just tell you a little bit about what the plan is going to be, what we're going to be about. I'd like to use this podcast just to talk about culture and to talk about things in our lives that are important and that I think somebody needs to talk about. And I like to talk, as some of you might know. So this should be fun. We're going to do a weekly podcast for now. It might change later. But for now, the plan is a weekly podcast where we can just come together and just talk. I want it to be a easygoing environment where just anything's good. There's no certain subject matter. There's no certain rhyme or rhythm. We're just going to go for it, And I think that's the best. I think that's the best format, honestly, because it's gonna let us just talk about whatever we want. So weekly podcast, you can tune in. It'll be on YouTube for sure to start, and hopefully we'll get it on Spotify. And we'll see from there what else. But there's also, I'll leave the link at the end for our social media, so please go follow that. And yeah, so the Lone Star Cajun podcast. Let's just get into it. So, I want to kick off today. I want to start by talking about Kobe. And I know it's something that that just happened. And God, it's so sad. I'm an avid NBA fan, but I was never on the Kobe bandwagon. I mean, when I got into the NBA in 2012, I mean, Kobe was a shell of the Kobe that most of you know. I mean, he was okay, but he wasn't, three-peat Laker dynasty, so I didn't know Kobe like that. But obviously I know, and from the response after his passing, that man, he was loved in that city. I mean, Los Angeles really took him as a son, and it's just sad, man. It's just, he was a great basketball player, but as it seems to go on and on, we found out and we've realized, we didn't know him because, of course, I didn't know him personally, but he seemed to be a great father, a great husband, and just a great person, honestly. So he'll be remembered for much more than the basketball court. And man, it's just I was sitting in my apartment, and I saw it flash across the screen on my social media, and I thought, oh my God, it can't be Bryant, Kobe Bryant. And my dad called me, and he was like, yeah, Kobe Bryant, he died. And I mean, there were reports, as you probably know, immediately of, all of his daughters were on the helicopter. Rick Fox, who was a former teammate, was on the helicopter. And I mean, it was just awful. It was just terrible. And yeah, I mean, it really just made me reflect on my own life. And you just never know. You just never know when you never know when it's done. And it really got me thinking. I've always been a person who's very close to his family, and I try to be in the moment with them, and I try to be present. And sometimes it's hard because I live far from most of my family. um but one, it just made me thankful to have a family, who loves me. And it just, man, you just got to enjoy life when you can. I mean, smile when you can. uh, just enjoy the time with your family if you have one. If not, friends and other loved ones. But man, you got to just enjoy the time you have here, because you really don't know. And sometimes I find it fascinating that um, we as humans, we're all, one day it's going to be our day. And it's amazing how somehow we don't let that bother us, because we smile and because we're happy and because we know this is our one shot. And sometimes I think we do need to be reminded of that this isn't, this isn't a game. This isn't a, there's no second chances, So I think you really got to make of it, you know, everything you can. And, last semester, of course, I'm in college. And really, up until last semester, for most of my life, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. um, I thought I wanted to be in the medical field because most of my family is. And from a young age, I can remember I I went to a hospital with my dad because he worked there, and we drove around the back, and he said, "Yeah, this is Dr. Nagum." He was a cardiovascular surgeon, so big money. And this is his Ferrari. And I thought, oh my God, I want that. That's my Ferrari. One day. And this is what I want to do, and I'm going to get it. And I never really looked back. I never really thought of any other career. I never really thought of doing anything else. Full speed ahead. And it came to a point, and of course, I took health courses in high school, and I went to the hospital a couple of days with my dad, but I never really thought about the actual career, just the end goals. And I think at some point last semester, and the reason I'm talking about this with the Kobe thing is I kind of started having the realization last semester, and it really started sinking in that, wow, we only get this one shot. And I realized first and foremost that I didn't want to be a doctor for the career. I wanted to be a doctor, like I said, for the end goals, for the rewards, for the money. And maybe a little bit because I felt in a way that that's what a lot of my family had done, and it's kind of all I knew. But I started having the realization that this is our one shot. And I follow, I look up to all these people on social media and other places, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, um, Arnold Schwarzenegger, guys who are, entrepreneurial spirits who are living out their presumable dreams and doing everything they want to do. And I just realized, hey, this is my one shot. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to put everything I have into it, and I'm not going to look back. So, in a way, to me, this podcast is the first step in that. People who know me know that when I get into something that I'm passionate about, I go all in. And I'm all in. I'd like to start with this podcast. Of course, I have my personal channel. I'll put a link to that underneath, where I have shorter sports-related videos for now, but that'll change, I'm sure, in the future. But I also want to dabble in acting, and I don't know where else. Whatever else I decide I want to do, because this is my shot. And it sounds cliche, it sounds corny, but you've got to follow your dreams. You just have to. And I would really encourage that. So, we're going to take a quick break for a sponsor. We have no sponsors. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is SpaceX. There was an article in Business Insider posted some point in the last couple of weeks where Elon Musk, of course, the founder, CEO of SpaceX, said that he plans to send 1 million people to Mars by 2050, and he's going to create jobs for those 20 million people. And it's a very interesting read. I'll post a link to that below as well. But wow, this is some Xbox game expletive. I mean, a million people on Mars in 2050. First of all, we are closer to, let me see if I get this right. We're closer to 2050, yes, than, well, we're about even with 2050 to 1990. We'll just say that. We'll just say we're a little closer. That's crazy. I was born in the 90s. That's crazy. And I mean, I'm not even sure I've seen The Martian, but I'm not using my crap to survive. I'm just saying that right now out the gate. And but 1 million people, and he's going to create jobs. It's a good read. You really should read it. Let me pull it up real quick. See if I can take some tidbits. It's really something else. So yeah, so he wants to take people there in these starships that he's building. Apparently they're gonna begin some form of building in Los Angeles in the coming months. Starship. I mean, this sounds like a fantasy movie. I mean, what world are we living in? I mean, we've got hoverboards, which aren't even really hoverboards, but starships. I mean, this sounds like. I mean, we're gonna be in. It's gonna be Star Wars. I mean, we're gonna be World War. What are we gonna be at by then? World War Four is gonna be. It's gonna look like a Star Wars fight. It's gonna be these two giant ships just. But anyway, so he plans to get 1 million people to Mars by 2050, and this is gonna involve manned flights every day whenever this process starts. And of course, it's going to cost you. So the 1%, they're going to get to go to Mars at first. This is what I feel like. And Mars is basically going to become a red dusted Beverly Hills. Basically, I think, for the first 5 years or so. And then the peasants will get to come. And yeah, I don't know if any of you have watched the sci-fi series, The Expanse, but in that series, it's set in the future, and basically you have Earth, you have Mars, and you have kind of an in-between, kind of like a station called the Belt. And Mars is like this militarized place. Earth is pretty much the same, and the Belt is kind of like smugglers and space pirates. And anyway, that's what I picture. I mean, we've had wars with multiple countries, but a war between planets? Scary stuff. But anyway, SpaceX is really trying to do this, and I know they've been trying to get something together for a Mars venture for a while, but I mean, when's the last time we went to the moon? We've got to get to the moon first. We haven't been to the moon in, honestly, I don't know how many years, but it seems like a while. And you know, this makes me think of something else that I've always been keen on, which is I always ponder this. If NASA was able to put a man on the moon in 1968 or 69, I believe, with no iPhones, no MacBook, minimal technology, computers. If we could do that in 1969, what can we really do now? I mean, let's get real. If our government had the capability to do that in 1969, I mean, they're hiding stuff from us. There's no doubt. Seriously, if we could land on the moon now, I'm not saying it's not a hoax. You might believe that. You can believe what you want to believe. I mean, if that's a hoax, that's Steven Spielberg. I mean, that's... But anyway, we're not going to get into that. If we could land on the moon with primitive computers and minimal technology. What is that? 40 some almost 40 years before the iPhone. We're not hearing the whole truth. I think we could get to Mars now. I mean, just think about that. In 1969, what's going on in 69? Woodstock? I mean, some craziness? Hippies? And we can get to the moon? Oh, we can get to Mars. It's not a question. And what else can we do? What's in Area 51? I'm telling y'all, we can do some crazy stuff. You just think about that and it puts it into perspective. In 1969, and what else? Like military wise, car wise, what else can we do today that we don't know about, that's being kept? That's what I want to know. That's what I got to know. All right, we're going to move on to our next topic. I don't know if any of you have seen the trailer on YouTube for Morbius. It's starring Jared Leto. It's a DC. I'm sorry, not DC. Please don't hurt me. It's a Marvel film. It's going to be their next big film, and it sort of details the turn to the dark side, if you will, of Morbius. Well, I believe Morbius is his dark side name. Don't quote me on that. But his turn into, well, I'm not going to spoil you, but he's a Marvel villain, and he's related to Spider-Man. Now, I wasn't big into Spider-Man as a kid, but I did watch it a little bit, and I'm into, I know it can't be just me, but the villains are just better, They're just cooler. I'm not a proponent of evil or doing bad, but why is it that they always make the villain characters cooler than the heroes? It's like they're trying to. It's like they're trying to make the villain characters like, man, that guy's cool. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I feel like it's not just me. I mean, if we're doing a versus, who's cooler? Luke Skywalker? Darth Vader? Come on. You want to be Darth Vader? Yeah, you do. But anyway, I saw this movie, and it looks really good. It looks really, really good. And Marvel's on a hot streak. Ever since the Avenger series, and man, they are kicking DC's man. I think, first of all, I'm a DC guy. I'm DC at heart, My favorite superhero is Batman, like many of you. Because, the man actually has to, he wasn't born with powers, He's a real superhero. He has to harness his pain, And Justice League, to me, man, Justice League is just, the lineup is just better than, it's just better than the Avengers. I'm sorry, I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, I know it, but it's just better. But man, ever since Dark Knight, that whole trilogy, the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, Well, and they had Wonder Woman, which you know it was good, but man, DC cannot figure out character development. They can't. What happened was Marvel got ahead of the game. They started making each of their characters' films, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man. And the thing that made Avengers so good was we knew the characters. We had an idea who they were, and we felt compassion for them. And then once they had multiple movies for each character, then they jump into Avengers. And by then, we're invested. But DC, oh, man. They made the Dark Knight trilogy. They made a few Superman movies, which, questionable how those turned out. But the rest of the squad had no airtime. So when Marvel starts dropping these Avengers and they start making that money, DC jumps the gun. They think, oh man, we've gotta go in right now. We've got to make, oh my God, we've got to make our shot at this. So they come out with Justice League. Justice League. Not good. We didn't know the characters. Of course, the legendary removing of Zack Snyder as the director. It was terrible. It was terrible because we didn't know the characters. We couldn't feel for them. We couldn't relate to them in any way. And I think DC just really screwed up. And I don't know how they're going to get back on. I don't know what they can do. Because, Marvel's got them right now. But man, it's just sad. It's just sad to see that they've gone down like that. Because I think DC's got so much to offer. I think even more than Marvel. But Marvel's just making better movies. Get that Spielberg, DC. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. Take a quick sponsor ad. Okay, we have no sponsors still. If you want to sponsor the Lone Star Cajun podcast, hit us up at, well, I'll leave it below, but just hit us up because sponsors are welcome. So, we got to talk about the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is Sunday in Miami. Of course, if you're a Cubano, you're very excited. The Chiefs, led by Patrick Mahomes, and the Niners, led by Jimmy Gorgeous Garoppolo. Let's just quickly go over each team. Let's just go by category. So let's start with offense. Chiefs' offense is scary. Scary good. And Patrick Mahomes can sling it. I mean, I watched him in college, but I think me, like most people, never would have thought that he'd have done this in the league. And he was out for a while this year. But he came back, and man, he's been playing it out. That offense is hard to stop. Now, Jimmy G, man, I'm a Saints fan, so believe me when I tell you, I've seen him sling it. I've seen him toast up a defense. But he threw 8 passes last week, and I don't think that's going to cut it. He's going to have to step that up. But honestly, this game can come down to defense because the Niners' defense is scary. I mean, that D-line is scary. You got DeForest Buckner, monster, 6'6", 6'7". You got Nick Bosa, huge. Those two guys coming at you. Scary. It's real scary. And Mahomes is going to have to be up to some of his tricks. He's going to have to be no-looking it. He's going to have to be running it. Basically, it's going to come to each side of the ball, I think. If Kansas City wants to win, it's going to have to be Mahomes airing it out. And if the Niners win, it's going to be on their defense, which is kind of what they've rode on the whole year. But anyway, I think the halftime show is J-Lo and Shakira, so a little Hispanic action. That should be entertaining. Hopefully it's better than Maroon 5. Wow, that was not that was not the best halftime show of all time. So yeah, that should be fun. But man, I like to watch the Super Bowl like most people who necessarily might not be into sports. I am into sports, but I'm just saying, for the commercials, man. The commercials are always fun, but I feel like in the past several years, they've just gotten bad. The commercials aren't good. Like, I don't know if these companies are trying too hard or what the deal is, but man, they're bad. And I just want to see some good, entertaining commercials, because the Super Bowl is, it's an entertainment piece, It's one of the most watched sports events in the world, if not the. And I hope everybody has a good time. If you're going to a party, if you're staying at home, if you're whatever you're doing, I hope you have a safe time and a safe weekend. But yeah, just to reiterate, I'm Christian Thibodeau. If you didn't know that already, and this is the Lone Star Cajun podcast. And like I said, I'll drop a link to the social medias below, but they're also in the channel description. And I also wanted to briefly mention that sometime early this coming week, we're going to do a Twitter poll on the Lone Star Cajun podcast Twitter, and we'll set up. Well, I'm not sure yet if we're going to set up several topics and then let you guys poll for what one topic we'll talk about in the next podcast is, or if we'll just leave it totally random and we'll just see. But I think what we'll probably do is I'll list out a few topics and you can vote in and let me know which one you think you want. So anyway, it's been great. Thank you for tuning in. And I guess we'll see you next week. This has been the Lone Star Cajun Podcast. Thank you.